What
Yeah.
are the economic concepts? So you supply and demand, obviously, but there have to be other things going on for people
Right.
to
I
want to
mean,
collect.
I always say that memorabilia is a great market because it tugs at the heartstrings. It does something beyond supply and demand. It reminds people of when they were at the games with their father, reminds people of a movie, gets them close to history. And I think that's really important.
You've been doing this for 20, 25 years. How did you understand how to value something? What factors went into your valuations?
It just goes back to any good investor has to be curious. I've lost in some markets. You don't just move on and say, I've lost. Why did I lose? Like I started investing in sealed VHS tapes. And to me, that made a lot of sense because it was mini movie posters on a piece of outdated technology. And who didn't open a VHS tape? And I put money into it, and it did not turn out to be the market I thought. There were basically 6 to 10 people controlling the market, and it masqueraded as if the masses were into it. So just like anything, when things don't work out, you become good by making mistakes and then asking why it didn't work out.
Do you factor in things like storage costs, insurance costs, authentication costs, and how do you look at what kind of a return you want?
I don't think about return, but I do think about before I buy it, all the costs going into it. I also think about when I would sell it. So I often sell things on anniversaries, 50th anniversary, 75th anniversary. All the stuff that is historical to America, I'm waiting till 2026 because that's the 250th anniversary.
Won't the market be glutted that year?
If you have the best of the best, Now there are situations where the Apollo 11 moon landing, where I missed the anniversary by a week or 2 weeks, and it cost me money because that's when you sell into the news cycle. That's when there's fervor and love for that event, and then 2 weeks later, it's not as hot. Yeah.
What kind of capital have you put into this?
Yeah, I mean, I've put in probably more than $1 million, and I think I'm at 10x over at least the last 10 years.
Do you ever consider key man risk in a different sense, cancellation risk, for example, or, maybe a controversial figure from the past?
I got rid of all my Bill Gates stuff. I had Fresh Prince stuff. Gates, I didn't take any loss on. I probably made money because I think he hasn't been canceled and might not be.
What was the most fun item that you bought, even if it didn't make you the most money?
I mean, Ferris Bueller's vest is still the most fun, and I also think it's going to make me the most money.
How much did it cost?
$153,000.
And it was the one he wore right through the movie.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So the auction house didn't do a good job of publicizing it. They just didn't. There was not a single article that said it was available, and I knew it could be one of one. Movie costumes are always bothered by the fact that there's 10 of them. So what I did is I contacted the costume designer, who 71 years old, found her on Instagram, Marilyn Vance. And I said, how do I know it's 101? And she said, well, you got to buy it first, and then I can tell you. And I said,
Really?
okay, so then maybe I could. So I bought it, and I said, what do I look for? And she said, okay, so it was a sweater originally, not a vest. I cut off the sleeves. If you look inside both armholes, you'll see that we sewed the armholes so that it didn't fray or unravel. And then I said, would you write a letter for me to basically say this is one of one? So that's an example of creating value. The auction house didn't say it was one of one. It's kind of only really very valuable if it is one of one. And that, to me, and that's, it's the most iconic movie costume of the 80s. To me, I would be disappointed if it sold for less than $3 million.